In this section of the DVD, we're going to discuss your first kumitachi. We call it Sarin. Sarin is comes from an old kenjutsu style. And what I'd like to try to explain is that in the studio here, we don't exactly have enough space to perform these like we normally would. Normally we'd be starting about 10 paces apart, then coming together, and at the end we'd be stepping back about 10 paces as well. So when you see us cross the swords at the end and perform the noto, that would actually be done stepping apart with the kisakis down low and then performing noto back 10 paces apart. So when you practice this, you want to make sure that you're practicing that properly. Just because of space limitations, we can't teach that. So Sarin starts facing each other approximately 10 paces apart. You draw the sword to Chura no Kamae. Once again, we would not be this close. We would actually walk toward each other at this point. Then what we would do is we would come to Hasso, come back, and then cross the swords as we got together. So at this point, we're both trying to maintain and control the center line here. And as you practice in the blocking and concept drills, you're going to, this is a sen no sen, he's going to try and cut my left kote this time. So we've practiced trying to cut the right kote. This time he's going to try and lunge in and attack my left kote. This allows me to open up. So as Shimokuro Sensei tries to attack my left kote, I step back, pull my hand to my hip, and bring the sword above my head. This opens up for him his right kote. And this is exactly what he's trying to make me do. He's trying to make me take this cut so he can move to the other side, which opens up my right kote. And then he cuts down and then thrusts. I try to move back to receive this blade without getting thrust or cut. I lower the sword, step back. Sensei lowers the sword. Normally from this position we would both retreat to our given positions. We would raise the sword about 10 paces apart and then perform our noto. And that is Sarin.
Hey! 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 Oh!
The second kumitachi in this volume is called Nito. Nito means two swords and then coming together. This is comes from the old Shinto-ryu kenjutsu style, and we're going to use a long sword and a short sword known as a kotachi. Once again, we're a little bit space limited in the studio, so we're going to start out a little closer. Shimokuro Sensei is actually going to step toward me rather than having us both come together at the same time. So in Nito, I first draw the long sword, and then I draw the short sword. Long sword comes above my head. Short sword comes about the height of my eyes. Sensei draws his sword on the shitachi side, and as I do this, I lower the kisaki of the long sword to just cross the tips so that they're the exact same length. So my left hand holding the short sword, my right hand holding the long sword, makes both swords approximately the same distance to the opponent. So I touch, and I slowly lower the X in front of me down until it's the height of my opponent's neck. And then we would normally walk toward each other, but due to space constriction, Sensei will come into me. And he controls my center line by bringing his sword directly up through the middle. The kisaki is now facing my face, and it's very hard for me to try and move in. So I'm going to try to control his sword by pushing just a little bit to the side with my wakizashi, controlling a little bit of space here. That gives me room to cut past it without being cut on my own wrist. As I do that, I raise the sword, I cut straight down. As I push in, the other sword, the short sword, comes above my head. This, once again, opens his kote for me. So I cut once again. He steps back, keeping his kisaki on my line so I can't come straight in. Then I cut straight down the center, and he performs an uke nagashi block. Around to the side, shifting in a tenshin motion, and cutting to my head. I come to a neutral position and step back to center. Then we return back to the normal starting position.
Hey! 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 Hey!
In our third pair drill of kumitachi, this is called uke kaeshi. And in uke kaeshi, what we want to concentrate on is the footwork between shitachi and uchitachi. As we begin to move, we draw the sword. And once again, we would be about 10 paces apart, as previously stated in the other kumitachi. And then uchitachi moves to joran no kamae. This would be about 10 paces apart, and shitachi goes to geiran. We close the distance until I feel threatened, my knee feels threatened by shitachi's kisaki right here. That makes me stop. And so I'm focusing on pointing my tsukakashira toward his hip or knee. I'm going to step straight in, trying to control the center line to make him pull back and block. As he does, he retreats, blocks straight overhead. Notice how he shifts his body just slightly as the sword goes behind to then return my cut. Then I will shift one more time this way, and at this point, shitachi moves forward and to an angle. This is a little irimi tenshin motion. So I step, I cut. He moves right foot, then spins around left foot, then steps back right foot to perform the cut to my neck. I step away from the sword. We move back onto the center line to this position. Then we will move back to the center, away from the center to our original positions, come to a chudan position, and then if this were your last kumitachi, then you would perform noto.
Hey! 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 Yeah! Hey! 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 Yeah!
Our fourth kumitachi is known as surikomi, and in surikomi, we're going to be moving close in, and you're going to watch the footwork as Shitachi cuts through my sword and pins my sword to the ground. We normally start about 10 paces apart. We draw the sword to chudan okamai. Then, in most cases, we would go to haso no okamai, and then come back out to chudan no okamai as we close the distance and close the space. In this case, once again, it's all about controlling the center line so that the opponent has to come through the sides. He can't come through the center. He has to move through the sides. This is a sen no sen technique. Shitachi comes in, controlling my center line, coming straight up the center, and then moves my sword to my right hip and toward the floor. In and down. This is pinning my feet, and not just the sword, but all my weight right now is on my back left foot. If I try to move the sword to cut, I lose a leg. Okay, so it's very important. He's got me pinned here. There's not much I can do. So I have to shuffle back. If I step back like this, he's going to cut through and take my other leg. So I can't do that either. So he's gaining this space by pinning my sword to this position. I have to retreat. So I shuffle back with my left foot. I pull back with my right foot, escaping this cut. Then I come around in a circle with the sword and cut toward Shitachi's head. This is a kiritsuke. I stop. He pulls back, learning how to escape this attack and performing a pushing block. Then cuts down on my kote. Then, as in the others, thrusting, and I receive that attack. I lower the sword, step back. Then we would normally step back to our original position. And if this were the last one we were doing, we would perform noto.